everyone. Nice to see you. I changed positions. I'm not in my pyramid today because my butt was hurting from teaching last time for 2 hours. So now I'm at my dining room table. So it's a little bit more comfortable. So just, hi, Becca, got your message. So I just want to say hello to everyone, and I'm glad to see you. And thank you for turning on your video, just that I can see you, because I don't like teaching in the dark and staring into a tube somewhere, into a black screen. So it's much easier for me to see people and to see your reactions, because if you're horrified with what you are seeing and listening to, then I will know to change the subject. The other nice thing I've learned about working on Zoom is the fact that I've been watching it this week, and you know, the stars pop up in their homes and you're thinking, oh gads, that doesn't look like them. And so one thing I was telling Sonoy afterwards, Sonia, is that I was so happy with the fact that this is what I always look like. So if you're horrified at the home look, that's what you're going to get when you get in person. So it works out perfectly. And I stopped wearing makeup. I guess I stopped wearing makeup after my mom died because I cried all the time. And then about a couple years ago, I thought, why am I dyeing my hair? This is a pain in the butt. So anyway, I cut it short, did what I do. So this is the face. Just love it. That's all it is. Just love it. So I wanted to talk to you guys today about the prophecies. And we're in a really important time. I was actually texting one of my students in 2018. This was like July of 2018. And as I was texting her, just writing a note, I wrote, the winds of change are here and the fire is coming. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm like, why am I, okay, what does that mean? Well, I had already done the study, and I knew that we were in another prophecy gate at that time, coming into 2020 and what I've learned and studied, but it didn't really hit me profoundly until then. And then in October, well, actually I started in August of 2020. I had to get my back deck done to sell my house, and I put my house finally up on the market on October 1st of 2018. And I knew that my son and I, he works on Wall Street in New York City. I talked to him for a while, and I'm like, and I wanted to talk to my children because, you know, that's part of their inheritance is, and I wanted to really, you know, like I need to regroup here, because living paycheck to paycheck is a difficult thing. And I've been doing that for a few years now. And it's difficult, you know? And so I understand people's struggle. I understand what, you know, we're all walking in. And at that point, I'm like, okay, the house is finally, from the recession in 2008, it's finally back up to at least being able to get some equity out of it and everything. So we decided that it was good as a family, you know, like, I'm going to sell my house and regroup and do something different. And that's what I did. So it's a year ago, last March, that I moved into my present situation. And I bought a mobile home, and it's actually bigger than my other house. And I lived on Broad Street in Nevada City for 15 years. And I was a little nervous about making such a change, but financially it made sense to me. And, you know, my utility bills went from like $325 a month down to $68 to, you know, $95 a month. And that's central heat and central air. Who would think an older mobile home would be more efficacious than a 105-year-old house? But truly, that was the case. And so I'm really glad I made that choice. And what I mean by telling you all my personal business here is that you got to think about where you're moving in the future. You've got to think about more than just today. Um, you've got to look at where your feet are, and you got to look out on the horizon, because we're living in a time that you can't get caught. It means you can't get caught. And what I mean by that is that if you barely make enough for food, then find another way to put a little aside, if you can, that you can have some sort of um, emergency fund to get you through the hard times, because this isn't precedented as it is today. As we're sitting here, this will happen again. We will have other catastrophes that are coming in this decade, and it's going to cause us to have to rethink, readjust, redo, and it's exactly, the winds of change are here, and the fire is coming, and the fire part of it is here. And so that's where I really want to go back. And I know a lot of my friends and fellow peers, it's how we live. We're kind of been forced in that situation to live day by day and hand to mouth and everything that happens. But I'm encouraging you to please look ahead in your own dream time and in your own availability of your own innate wisdom, because you all have that. And as we discussed before, it's illuminate your heart, restore your memory. Within your DNA is your lineage. And I don't want to get into an ethnic point of view here. We're all indigenous from somewhere, and we have those indigenous memories within our own being. And within those indigenous memories of our own roots, we can restore and recall those memories through our own blood, our own blood. I was adopted at birth, and so I don't have a face to put to my lineage. And I know there's another close person I'm here close to that was adopted too, and she and I talk quite a bit about our different experiences through adoption and stuff like that. And it's important to understand, and to do some like journey work into your own blood, into your own being. And that's really important. It doesn't matter what ethnicity you are, it doesn't matter where your people are from. It comes back to that place within self, into your own historical reckoning of your ancestry, and calling upon your ancestors to work with you in times of difficulty, because they've passed through the generation realms of the earth, and they have that memory, and that memory is available to you, to everyone. Just, we're all earth beings, and we all connect on that earth plane. So the other thing that's really important, that I wanted to talk about, and I talked about it last time, is keeping your own vibration up. When the planet itself is going through this day of reckoning, we call it, it's really, really important that each of us keep our own vibration up. And in that vibration is taking in the sun transmission, which we talked about last week. There's certain things that I do. I go to different places, since we can't go to different places right now. I go to one place where a medicine wheel is, and I get in my car and I drive straight there. I'm there for a couple of hours. I do my sun transmission, and I come back to my home, and I don't stop. And so for me, that's essential for part of my survival, is to be able to at least get out in the sun. And luckily I live in a community that my sister is only 2 blocks away, and they take walks, and I sit on the porch and she sits at the end of the carport and we can have a conversation. However, I've had more people reach out to me that I feel like I'm busier than ever with people reaching out. And, you know, it's pretty bleak on the East Coast in New York. My son is in his apartment, and I've been working with the young MD that she's been with me as a student and as part of our Sun Clan group. And she's been with me for about 10 years. And she wrote to me a couple days ago and said she had 15 patients die in one night. And that was hard for her. And also, they're looking at this as not a flu, but now they're starting to use steroids. And she just wrote a protocol to work with because they were saying that steroids and like albuterol wasn't helping, and now all of a sudden this is helping a little bit more. So anyway, there's a lot of research going on, a lot of stuff, and please don't go out and use steroids because you're hearing me say this, that this is something that has to come through your doctor. And if you do have COVID-19, please check in with your medical team. I'm just saying what I know is some of the research that they're looking at. But what you can do for yourself, and you know, is embrace where we are on the planet, and that's really, really important to brace into the vibration that we're sitting in, and be aware of it. I was talking to another one of my dear friend. She's a close apprentice of mine. We've been together for probably 7 years, and she's Jewish. And we had this wonderful conversation. I think it was Sunday night, about the plagues of Egypt and about the Passover. And I ended up with her family. Actually, her family's on Zoom in Chicago, and we had this wonderful experience of having a Seder dinner, which I've never participated in. And it was really enlightening to actually go through the Kaddish of that, and hopefully I'm saying all the words right, and to actually be able to read and to understand it. And then of course I had to watch the 10 Commandments afterwards with Charlton Heston. But it's I've been thinking of this time, you know, as the pestilence, and having the pestilence. That was the first thing that came into my mind. And so I went to Revelation and I looked up the fourth seal of in Revelation is pestilence. And I always felt like, okay, this was in China, and then it kind of went to Europe, and then from Europe it jumped over here, and now they're saying it was here maybe in San Francisco area before. Not sure. That's still some headlines I've seen this morning, but that's still to be determined by Stanford. But the understanding, it's like a wave. It's like a wave coming around the earth, and you know, will it dissipate once it gets back into China? Because it's going around the earth. And I almost felt like we had to, like where there was the blood of Passover of the lamb shank that was taken and rubbed above the door of during Passover. I did, before Passover, what I did is I decided to do Hopi ash on all of my doors. People that know me know that I use a lot of ash, and the Hopis are very good about giving ash and their white corn to me for different ceremonies that we do. And so I put ash in all my doors and windowsills, which I normally do during the solstice ceremony, but I did ash, and then I did my prayers and my light codes, as I say, above each of my doors, because I felt like this was a Passover. I feel like this is the time that, you know, this darkness is passing above us. And if this is a house of light, then that will pass over. And it's not to what do I call it, dismiss anything with what happened in the past or the Jewish faith or anything like that, or trying to copy something. This is something I've used once a year in instructions with Hopis that have always said, put the ash inside your windows. For years, I put it outside my windows. And finally, when solstice, my friend who's Hopi said, no, 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 no. It goes on the inside of your door jambs, on the inside. So I changed it. So that's normally my winter solstice, ceremony that I do for myself. And I felt really, really called to do it now. And that was really important, to keep that pestilence from my door. As most people know, I had a lung thing with black mold this last year, and it's taken me to ground on a lot of different levels, and I've had to readjust and live with it. And so this type of flu could be fatal. And it's not even acting like a flu or virus. It's something different. And the thing is that I've got a lot of friends of mine are high risk. They are high risk just because of our age group. And it's unusual for me to be in, I mean, I never thought of myself as in an age or in a risk category or even being older. I mean, it just doesn't compute for me. My mom used to say when she was 90, she goes, "Oh my God, who's that old woman in the mirror?" And mom would go, my face looks old, but my heart is young. And she says, I feel like I'm 35, but I guess I'm really 90. And so I think I'm beginning to understand what she meant by that. And I just really want people to understand that, you know, you get to a certain age and it's not that you even recognize you're that age. You're just in your life and you're just doing it. And then something like this hits you and you're thinking, holy cow, you know, I'm in this risk group, which I would never believe I would be in this risk group, you know? So I really find it interesting that that we have our self-placement and how we look at ourselves in the world. So I'm asking you guys to do that right now. I'm just really asking you guys to look at, where do you sit in your circle and how do you relate to that circle? It's really, really important to know an actual way of visualizing yourself and where you're standing on the planet, and what is your relationship to all that's around you. Because that's the first place that you start in these 2020 prophecies. And I'm going to go through some of those prophecies and markers, but I'm also going to reference back to what we learned in class last week. And I'm going to be doing another class next week on offerings and the balance of power and understanding miasmic relationships and how to appropriately work with those in the unseen and to break some of those patterns that you get into. So, but on these prophecies, and I talked to Hopi yesterday, and I'm really, really grateful. There's over 300 cases of COVID on the Navajo reservation, and the reservation is actually, they have a time people are complaining about their freedoms. on on the Navajo Nation right now, they have a curfew, and if you're out past 8 o'clock, you get $1,000 fine. And there were over 100 tickets written on the Navajo Nation for fining for $1,000 each, because there were 100 people that was on that restricted, that were out past 8 o'clock. So they have martial law and curfew law. So I think that for people that are complaining about having to stay home, I think that we have it pretty easy compared to some of the other places that we look, even within our own United States. And there's 300 cases now at the Navajo Nation. Navajo Nation is 200 is the largest reservation in the United States. There's 250,000 Navajo in four in 4 states. And I know that doesn't sound like a lot of people, but when you get into these indigenous tribes that 200,000, 250,000 people, and we've had globally 100,000 people die. When you think about that, if that could hit the Navajo Nation all at once, that would be a lot of people. And the thing is, these indigenous tribes are usually much smaller groups, and it's really, really important. So Hopi, they've been having, I've had people ask me, oh, well, this is the time we need to go to Hopi because we need to go to those sacred lands. And I'm just telling you, no, it's not. There are 12,000 Hopi people living on 3 mesas. They were not put there as a reservation. They were actually, they migrated there between the 3rd and the 4th world. So it's really important to understand that the Hopis, with 12,000 people, for them to even lose any of their seniors. And plus, they've also chosen not to have on their reservation, they have not ever built a casino. They chose not to, as a people, to do that because it was not in their best interest. And they do not allow alcohol sales on the reservation. So with that, they don't have the extra income as some of the other tribes do. So they're not in I mean, whatever they make, their nearest grocery store is an hour and a half away. They have small stores on each mesa that handle, you know, if you want to go in and get a snack, or you want to get gasoline or something like that, it's a quick stop. And there's only really one market. Well, there's one at Hope Villa, and there's one at Movie on Second Mesa. But to understand that if they were to lose even 1% of their people, so much of that medicine would be lost. So much of that medicine would be lost. The Sun Clan is already extinct on First Mesa. That clan has died out, and once a clan dies out, that medicine for that particular group is gone. Sun Clan does exist, like at Chapalavi and Shamopavi on Second Mesa, and also at Hope Villa. But it's also, each clan with each mesa holds a different medicine, and they're not allowed to crosstalk about that medicine. So if Corn Clan is, which their migrations patterns came out of Africa, the Corn Clan can only teach Corn Clan medicine to Corn Clan people. Whereas you've got Flute Clan, which came out of Tibet, can only teach Flute Clan to Flute Clan. And there are Hoof and Horn Clan, there's Flute Clan, Bear Clan, there's 8 hierarchical clans at Hopi. And each clan has its own way of working its own medicine. There was a question there about why is that? Because when we came from the 3rd to the 4th world, that what happened was the ending of the 3rd world, which was what we know as the flood. And it went all around the earth. Every indigenous culture has some sort of history about the flood. In the Judaic history, everyone got on a boat, and they went on this boat to which called the Ark, and then it ended up on Mount Ararat. In Native culture, in especially the Southwest Native culture, yes, Becca, the Southwest is an area where they went underground with the ant people. And I explained this a little bit in the class last week and showed people the picture of the door. And the picture of the door is an ascendance, or it's called a interdimensional door, is where the people came up. And like different people came up in different places back into this earth realm. I can't explain what the ant people are. I cannot explain how these stories exist. If you want to believe in inner earth, if you want to believe in dimensional space, however, the Native people have their creation stories. And so many, like the Northwest, they use the raven, and they have the raven story. In the Hawaii, they have the Hawaiian stories of the mono, the shark. And we have Turtle Island, which is North America, born on the back of the turtle. The Hopi clans, each clan came from a different migration area, and they were held at an area called Dawa Park. And each of those clans, when they came off their migration, they left some people behind. And some of those people were the Inca and the Maya. And I'll get to a story that I had mentioned in the past, but I'm going to mention it again because it was extremely, extremely profound. And so as the different Hopi clans did their different migrations from the places that they came up, and we've got a story from the reeds of Panama, and then we've got the story of all these different stories from the different clans, and they were all came into a place at Hopi. But each clan, it wasn't like a bunch of people like, hey, let's get together and create this tribe. The way it was done is that Bear Clan was the first ones to arrive, at Honanki. They had an area of Honanki, Pulaski, and that group were the first ones to arrive and started different villages. But those villages, then the Corn Clan would come in, and they had to prove their medicine. And so like they would be turned away by the Bear Clan first and say, no, we're not ready for you, or you're not ready for us. So over the years, these different clans would come in after their migration, and they would be slowly, like the Badger Clan is the healer clan, and the Bear Clan is that one of the hierarchical clans. The Flute Clan had the different type of medicine. The Corn Clan takes care of the water. The Hoof and Horn Clan takes care of the earth. And so each of these clans had their particular gifts that created the whole of the medicine. It's kind of like us as individuals. You can't have somebody else's medicine. You have to find your own. You have to find your own walk, your own innate gifts that Creator gave you. And Creator has given everyone a special gift. And then you have to find your tribe. It's a lot harder for us that are scattered from our place of origination, because we've been taught by the society to live in a way of being separated versus together. And it's only back in 1960 when we had the age of Aquarius, and everyone started singing that 50 years ago. And we just entered the age of Aquarius just like now. And so the interesting part of that is that there was this rebellion in the 60s, which it was frightening growing up in that, watching, watching the Vietnam War, the first war ever to be televised. And then watching, it was, I think, my 8th birthday that President Kennedy was shot. And they played it on television again and again and again and again. And as an 8-year-old watching that on TV, it was the only thing on TV. We had like 10 stations in Los Angeles, and it was Thanksgiving weekend, and it was my birthday, and we had a party planned, and my party was canceled. And, as a kid, it's like, wow. And then, trying to understand it all, it was really difficult. And then seeing the racial riots, I grew up a mile from Compton, and so watching the watchtowers burn and watching just the craziness of stuff that happened, and then Robert Kennedy shot, and it was a violent time. And then in 1969, I was with the YMCA, and we actually took a cattle truck that was open in the back, and we were allowed to sit there at the time. And we went up Highway 1, and we went to Haight-Ashbury. My mother must have been crazy to let me go, but for some reason she did. I was in the summer of 9th grade to 10th grade, and we burned our bras in San Francisco Park, and it was just crazy back then. And so we are coming to a point in time that we are hitting that wall of revolution again. It's another place that we're hitting, because what we've seen happen, and I'm not going to go into all the weirdness that is going out there. The internet's going down, the 3 days of darkness. And actually that is a true thing. And I'm going to talk about that, about the internet going down. I don't know, but maybe, the planet is taking a rest right now. And we need that rest. We need that rest for ourselves, and we need that rest. And so people that are afraid of this time to stay in or do what you need to do, it's a really good time to winter deeply. My ancestors used to winter deeply. They used to take the winter and go deeply and sit quietly and do the inner work that needs to be done. We don't do that anymore. We run out to the stores, we stress about what we're going to buy for who, and we put on all the biggest lights all over our house that says, "Look at me." And the kids, we start Christmas in September, and little kids no longer know when Christmas is, because the Christmas trees in September go up in the and as a little kid, you live in the now, you don't live in the then. So you've got people, look at these little kids looking at Christmas trees, and they have to wait 4 months to open a Christmas present. I mean, this is absolutely, completely, excuse my language, effing nuts. And we've gotten to ourselves to a place that we can exist. We're coming to a place of, it's like a big pimple. We've got to pop it, and it has to come out. And in those prophecy times, again, we're going back to Hopi, is understanding that each clan had its own medicine. Each clan had its own medicine that works with the greater part of the whole. So that's what we need to look for. And it's really important to find your medicine personally, and then how you're going to give it away. Because the one thing my teacher, Sun Thunderflower, taught me, she's bless her heart, she used to just pound this stuff into me, and I would be like, yeah, whatever, and I wouldn't listen. And it's really sad. It took me longer probably than normal, because I didn't listen. I'm like, yeah, whatever. But you can't give it away. You can't keep it unless you give it away. If you are given a particular medicine, it's because it's given to the greater part of the whole, not because it's given to you personally. And I learned that the hard way, believe me. And so when you, and I work very, very closely with Hopi, as most of you guys know. And I've worked very closely with him for the last 10 years, almost 11 years now. And I've been going back and forth to Hopi for a long time, but nobody would talk to me. And it wasn't until the last 11 years that Hopi has opened to me very deeply, because they understand the medicine that I carry. And I carry the medicine of a door. I carry a medicine of the ancestors that I was adopted into. And yeah, I have a ethnic white face and Northern European, but I was trained, and other elders knew that, and they came and they showed up in places that I would never expect them to show up. And it's not that I'm chosen as special. It doesn't mean that I'm cool. It doesn't mean any of that. It means that I have a burden of medicine to give away to the populace, and I have a bridge into both worlds, because that is the niche, the gift that Creator gave me. It's not because I'm better than someone, or I'm lower than someone, or I'm appropriating someone. None of that. And believe me, I've been hit really hard, especially last year. There was a really place of hard hitting with this appropriate going off my face and the appropriation of my ethnicity. And it was a very, very difficult thing to navigate. And to understand that I teach this by birthright, because in most tribes and in most area, if you are given something by birthright, it doesn't matter who you are. It means you're adopted by those people and given the same rights and responsibilities. And these responsibilities are difficult. They're not easy. It's not a charmed life. It is very difficult sometimes, and it's getting harder to navigate some of these segues of where we're walking, because we are in such a fragile state as society of judgment. And there's a lot of judgment on people just by their looks. And especially on social media, we put something up and immediately you're hacked, or you're whatever. And I've shied away from putting up a lot of social media. It's been difficult. And it's very understanding that we all have to learn that we are part of the rainbow hoop, and we're coming into a place that we have to hold our own in the gifts that we were given. And you're either called, you're awake and you're called to do this work, or you're not. And if you're awake and you're called to do this work, then you need to do it, because we are in crucial times. In the prophecies, and the understanding of the work of Hopi, Maisi and Seute is a good day to die is Lakota, and Keazikwaze is, I'm not saying that quite right, Keazikwaze is the Hopi realms of saying the world in chaos. There was a film that came out in the 90s or maybe the 80s, that, yeah, it was the 80s, and it was put out by the Hopi. And if you go to my page, you can find that on my page, scroll down, there is the elders, the Hopi elders, and it's an archival piece where they were turned away from the house of Micah, as they say. And the house of Micah is actually the UN. They went to the UN 3 times and they got turned away when they were trying to tell them of their prophecies. We're trying to share our prophecies with you, and no one in Washington, D.C. would listen. And so they were told to go to the National Cathedral. The Inca actually went in the 90s to offer their prayers and to talk about the time of this great change. And they were also told to go to the National Cathedral, where they performed a despacho for, I think that was in 93, something like that. So the elders have been standing up in the 80s. All of those elders in Hopi now are gone. They're all gone. And we host the elder that did go to that National Cathedral in 1993. And he desperately was asking people, that the North American people that were coming up to, living in North America, he was desperate to ask the people when they would come to visit the Sacred Valley or Cusco to come and please, I need to come, because our prophecies, the Pachacuti, the time of turning over, I need to come and give our medicine to the people that can help turn it right side up. And Don Mariano, Don Francisco, they were all coming up to the United States, hosted by different people. I became involved with a group called the International Caros Foundation in 2010. And it was the first time that Don Humberto and Doña Bernardina had come back to the United States. And the director who founded the foundation heard his call and brought him up. And he started giving away the carpais and the despachos. And later on, especially the last 3 years, we've had the Inca, the Maya, the Hopi, and the Tibetans. And they seem like the most unlikely group. However, the Hopis, the Mayas, and the Incas are all the same people. And if you go through the different lineage and you listen to the lineage stories, you can hear in their storage and their stories and their lineage. In June of 2012, I was with we took the Inca elders to Hopi, and we had them sit with the Hopis, and we were in 11th century house in one of my teachers, one of my Hopi's teachers on First Mesa. We were sitting in his house, and he was given Mayan codices about, well, a few years ago. He was given these Mayan codices, and in the Mayan codices were actually this creation story. And it was the creation story about the codices, the way it looked. There was a tree on one side and it had been cut off. And then there were women sitting around a fire. They were making something and they were crying. And the men were at another fire doing a dance. And all of a sudden, we had a Quechua translator with us. And all of a sudden, Don Humberto stands up and he starts dancing like this, and he finishes the story. So let me give you this picture. We're in an 11th century house on top of First Mesa with a Hopi elder giving his interpretation of the Hopi, the Mayan codices. These codices are 1,000 years old, written on parchment. And he's giving the story, because those migration stories that are written on those codices are about his people. It shows the 8 hierarchy clans. It shows the story of his people. So these are Mayan codices talking about a Hopi migration. So think of that. Then from there, we've got a man who is not educated, doesn't speak English, speaks Quechua, has lived up in the high Andes at Hatun Village most of his life. He doesn't know how to read, he doesn't know how to write. And yet he understands the story. He jumps up and starts dancing, and he finishes the story of what is on those codices. At that point, the Hopis recognize the Maya, the Incas, and the stories of the Maya, and so there we went to one of the villages, Walpi, and there was actually a ceremony done to unite them as a tribe, to understand that the Hopis had hosted them. And there were 15 people in that room. To me, it was like proving the Bible, that their migration stories are true, because here are these three factions coming together that recognize each other. And in that recognition, it took me aside. Out of 15 people, 4 people actually got it. 4 people got exactly what happened. And all of us broke into tears. The 4 of us did. And the other people just sat there and kind of went, huh, what's happening? And we had to go back and explain it all to them. So what that also taught me is how brief history works. There might have only been 4 people to something that was as mind-blowing as that actually got it in the actual moment. Then we had to go back and teach it. And then the people that were actually there went, oh, and one of them that was with us, which is not part of the International Carols Foundation, she's another Carols person that I had gone to do this work with, she didn't get it. I had to explain it to her the next day. And so I just want you to tell you, prophecy, history happens before your eyes, before you even recognize it, that it's happening. So please keep your eyes open, because this is the time of that we're in, of the signs and the signals, and the signs are all around us. The signs are all around you. If you are tuned in to the cosmos and you are walking your medicine, you are going to see the signs all around you. I've studied prophecy since I was about 14. I did my first vision quest when I was 12 in Arizona by the door. And then I didn't do my other vision quest was in when I was 30. And when I was 30, it was very, very profound. And it's a lineage story, and it's something that I walk with, that Sun Clan is part of the lineage from Rolling Water. And Rolling Water had a vision when he was in about 1920, he had a vision that he was going to teach this medicine to someone outside of his tribe, and that was unheard of. And he was basically walked the United States and came back to Auburn, actually. And I am not the person he taught that medicine to, but Sun Thunderflower was. And I met Sun Thunderflower when I moved up from Southern California over to Placerville. And I learned a lot of my medicine. And then from there, the elders started showing up. And I don't know how many people, how can you have Hopi in your bedroom and Inca parked in your backyard on a main street? I lived on Broad Street in Nevada City. So how can you have something like that happen? You know what I mean? It's like, and Grandfather Nelson Turtle, and him showing up and re-showing up and re-showing up. A lot of these elders, and now the Hopis show up when I need to go do the work at the door. I'm still, there's a prejudice. My father's tribe is not a registered tribe. They stayed to take care of the door. The other part of the tribe was put on a reservation, and they missed the federal, being federally recognized. And that's okay. That's not something I even am involved in. But the thing is, it's now a site that when I need to go, which I go once a year or twice a year, the Hopis show up for me. And they make the phone call. They say, we're coming in. And then we have a ranger walk back with us to do the work. And we actually do the work, which I just did on February 2nd. with the elders. So they also recognize that there needs to be bridge beings that build these bridges with ethnicity, knowledge, things like that. So I am told that I'm a bridge being. Um, in 2009, I worked with the Kogi, and the Kogis came, and I just happened to be working um, in Arizona and met up with them. And we've had some of the Mayas show up, and I had an opportunity to work with them. And like I said, I am not there to try to follow these people or find these people. They just show up. And in doing this, it is giving me an incredible experience of studying these. And since I was a young girl when my dad died, and what set me into prophecies, my dad died right on my 14th, 15th birthday. And after he died, um, my sister was very involved in the Baptist church, and I had friends. Bless her heart, Pam Sirvog. Her family was incredible to me, and we went to the Brethren Church. I see you smiling, Carolyn. We went to the Brethren Church on Orange in North Long Beach, and that's when I started studying Revelation, and I started studying the prophecies. And then I went to Lakewood First Baptist and studied those prophecies. Then I went off and did some work at Long Beach City College and Bible Institute of Los Angeles. And then I studied a lot about biblical prophecy. But then as I went more into college at Cal State Long Beach, went into anthropology, and I was also studying nursing at the time. And then I went to the University of Oklahoma, and then came back and studied at the University of Santa Barbara at UC at Santa Barbara. But that's my academic life. But more and more flooded into me to understand that these prophecies were parallel. I took the biblical prophecies, I took the Mahabharata and looked at that. I then studying the Hopi prophecies, and I got thrown into the Hawaiian world. I've always been involved in Hawaii, and that's another story. But I ended up with a temple keeper in front of her temple at Kealakekua at Hikiauheau in the early 90s. And I was hanai'd or adopted into their cultural family. And in that cultural family, I was taught the temple medicine of Hikiauheau, Lana, who was the Kuhuna Nui at the Puhu Anua Oho Now, or City of Refuge. There were temple lessons that we learned. There was a school to make temple instruments, and I'm not a crafts person, but I sat while my friend learned the crafts, and ended up buying a small home over there that was just like a cabin, 400 square foot cabin on an acre with a huge lava tube on it that was an ancestral lava tube that had a spirit guardian that I had to learn the traditions to make the right offerings and how to work with that, because we had a lot of the elders that would come through to give away at a lava tube. Now, if you would have told me when I was younger I was going to own a lava tube, that's nuts. And especially a ceremonial lava tube that was still being used. Again, that wasn't anything I planned. And to humbly serve it, I had to learn, and I learned the hard way. There was a lot of incidences that happened, but understanding the Hawaiian prophecies, they are just the same. They all align. So I'm just trying to say, no matter what prophecy that you study, they all basically say the same thing. They all say the same thing. And understanding that there are gates, there are certain time gates that open up, or time doors, dimensional doors that open up as you approach into these more and more different prophecies. In the Mahabharata, we talk about the Yuga cycle, and we talk about the use of the Yuga cycle. And then we get into the 26,000 year cycle. We get into also the golden age, and then we have the silver age, we have the bronze age, and we have the iron age. And this is a really, each one is not 26,000 years. Each one, the golden age is the longest, silver age is less, bronze age is less, and iron age is less. Somebody had asked me about the Kali Yuga. The Kali Yuga, Kali, the goddess Kali in the Mahabharata is she is the one, almost like segment in the Egyptian pantheon, is the lioness, or is the goddess of rage or fire, but it's also the goddess that renews life. And so the Kali Yuga is the time that we eat ourselves and then we give birth to ourselves. It's also the same if we look at the Pachacudi, the time that the condor will fly no more and the glaciers will melt. And when that happens, that's when the Inca come down. They had a sign and they knew that it was time for them to bring this message. And that's why they were pleading to come to North America, because they knew that they themselves didn't have the power to turn the medicine ways back into a place of how we should live. They knew that they needed help, and that's why they wanted to work with North America or Europe or wherever, that the Western culture needed to work with the medicine people, the indigenous medicine people, to turn things right side up again. And somebody asked a question, I couldn't read that. I'm going to have questions and answers at the end of this. It's 4 o'clock now, so I still have another hour. So I'm gonna cut off here at about 4:30 and let people ask questions. But to understand that Yuga cycle is, and the Kali Yuga cycle is the time of pretty much destruction and resurrection. Kind of about what this weekend is about in historical. We have the Passover. We have also the Christian holiday of Easter. And again, that's the story of resurrection. We are in that place of resurrection right now, guys. We are in the ending of the Kali Yuga, the beginning of moving into higher consciousness, moving into that. It's why the Hopis a lot of their prophecies have been fulfilled, and it's not mine to speak that. That is for them to speak, and I will let them speak. The Hawaiians, unfortunately, oh, God bless, Haleaka Iolani Pule, Aka. Some of you people know her in this community. I met her when she was 32, brought her here to teach a class when she was 33. And on her 49th birthday, she crossed over. She was the last to hold the kahuna nui of Hikiauheau on the big island of Hawaii in Kealakekua Bay. And in 1997, again, there was a book called One Spirit, and you could join, buy a book for $1, you get 5 books, and then you buy one for, the book clubs that they used to have. And there was one called One Spirit. So I ordered my 5 books, and one of them, it was called Spirit Walker, which, that went with what I'd like. And I didn't know what it was about, and I shoved it up on my shelf. And I was on my way to Hawaii, and I grabbed a book off the shelf to take on the plane, and I started reading it. And it was by Hank Wesselman, and it's a story about 5,000 years in the future, but it wasn't fictional. It was a vision that he had with an ancestor from the future. And it was an incredible story, and it took place about a pahaku, or rock, in Kealakekua Bay. And I fervently read this book, and I was staying right next to the bay, right next to the temple that he was talking about. And there was this Hawaiian woman sitting in front of the temple with some things that she was selling. And there was this guy down by the bay trying to take this rock out, and he was spouting things about the book, and that we were talking, we ended up talking, and I'm like, oh my God, he can't take this. This is not the good thing for him to do. So I went over to the woman who, you know, she looked like she had some authority over the temple. And I went to her and I said, you know, there's a guy down there. Oh, don't worry about it, sister. I'll take care of it. I'll take care of it. So she walks down and says, you know, brother, not a good thing. We don't take bahakus, and no, 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 no. So she and I started talking. That was Aka. And that's how I met Aka. And we started coming more and more and more. And then I became involved with her family and learned the ways of the temple. And that's how things work in my life. The other weirdness is I go back to start school with my kids. They went to the Waldorf school in Auburn. And guess who's in my daughter's class? Hank Wesselman's daughter. And they're sitting in our class, and he had moved from the Big Island to Auburn, and he had taken the rock that he had written his story about that was sitting in Auburn. And I mean, that's just how my life has worked. And it's just this thing of signs and being available to be open to signs. So if you haven't read Hank Wesselman's books, it's a trilogy of 3, and I highly recommend it. But it's Spirit Walker, came out in the 90s. There's Spirit Walker, Medicine Maker, Vision Seeker. And it's about 5,000 years in the future, about the time of great change. And I don't know the timeline on that, but I think it's a lot closer than 5,000 years, to tell you the truth. But it's an incredible journey, and I highly recommend it. And but in 1997, there was a ceremony with the Hawaiian elders, and it was with the Hopi elders had come over to the heiau, and they brought their birthing stones, as they call them, and the other name of that would be a wutya, in that's the Hopi name for it. They brought their wutyas over to the heiau and the Hawaiian elders and the Hopi elders got together to know that this was the time of great change. And in this time of great change, they came together to say, hey, we need to have this united front, that we know that you are our brothers. So here was another joining ceremony about the migrations. And I just happened to end up there the day before that happened. And there were 4 pieces of Hopi corn tied to the heiau, and the portal of the heiau had been open, and you could feel the throb, 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 throb of that power of that place. And it has become a regular journey for me to go do the same work I do at the door with that heiau. And Aka's children are standing up. They were very young when she passed, and there was no one to take that place. And we've got the elder children now are standing up to start doing the ceremonies. They're old enough now. And every year I check in. Are you guys ready? Because I make sure that those prayers are done at that heiau in the right way, the same way the prayers are done at the door the right way. And to make sure that there are those that are learning that medicine. So that ceremony, so we have certain gates. In 1987, there was something called the harmonic convergence. And in that harmonic convergence, there was a lot of prophecy that was given by many elders that showed up at that particular thing. In 1997, there was another gate, and that gate went from 1997 to around 2000, rolling into And there were in that was part of the meeting of the Hopis and the Hawaiians meeting to do a ceremony to open that gate. If any of you guys took my class, and it's going to be up on the Isis and Drea or Boris YouTube. It's the Academy of Oracle Arts, I believe. I don't know the name of the YouTube site, but there is a YouTube site, and Sonia will talk about that at the end here so that you guys can get the right thing. If you missed the class last week, it talks about a certain way of doing medicine that we have to do now because of the times that we're in and what we're entering. But it also gives the full time about in these certain gates. And when we were in Egypt in December, it came very clear to me that as we did the work that we had to open these gates before the portals could be used. And so there's also that with time gates, and to understand those markers are time gates, and those time gates have to be open before the portals can be fully used. And I may sound like an absolute frosted flake here, but I'm not. These are things that I have learned extensively from my elders, and think where we're crossing to, and that's why I taught this class actually at Lightning in a Bottle in May of 2019. I taught, and it's up on the Ouroboros Facebook. I talked a little bit about it in November before we went to Egypt, and I taught the class last week because it's the times that we're in. And there's time gates. So 1987 was the time gate, 1997 to 2000. There are gate swings in this, meaning like it's not a date that's like January 21st, 1919 is the gate. No, it sometimes there are more specific times. So in 1987 was a great awakening. It was awakening of people going, oh my God, what's coming? There was something that was really heralded as coming. The revolution had happened in the 60s. The Back to the Earth movement came in the 70s. In the 80s came the higher messages and higher consciousness that we're nearing those gates, we're nearing this time. And as we near those gates and we near this time, so 1997 to 2000. And if people want to remember, and they're going to laugh about it, the Y2K, my husband came home with a 50-pound bag of walnuts and rifles, and that was our Christmas present that year. So whatever you want to call the Y2K, that was nuts. And the way that they were delivering it was kind of nuts. So how we have to move that into a better space is to understand these gate swings. So in 2000, the next gate that we went through was in 2012. And 2012 was the galactic alignment that our great central sun took in a transmission to the sun, and then our sun, our whole heliotrope atmosphere, and you can look that up on the internet, the whole heliotrope atmosphere, the Schumann resonance, there's physical anomalies happening right at that 2012. We are alive as mankind, taking in that transmission of the galactic alignment. That was a huge, huge thing that the Mayas and the Incas and a lot of other, the Dogons, a lot of the other indigenous tribes saw that. It wasn't the ending of the world. It was another very, very powerful gate that we went through. Our next gate was 2020, I'm sorry. 2020 is the huge gate. And everybody, you know, I'm not a Trump fan. You guys know that. But Trump is doing the job that he is supposed to be doing. And he is the trumpet that is he's the trumpet. And he's the trumpet that has caused us to look at ourselves like, oh my God, you know, he has been not him alone, but the whole administration, the whole 1% is giving us a bitter taste in our mouth. And there are other things that are causing that. It's just not, there's a global bitter taste in our mouth in humanity. There is a bitter taste. That bitter taste is causing us to change. It's causing us to do something different. It's causing us to move into a different paradigm. And in that paradigm, it's understanding that as we move into this time of great change, there's going to be a lot of stuff happening, and there has been a lot of stuff happening. I mean, we've had Katrina back when, we've had, you know, we had the Japanese earthquake, we had the Chilean earthquake that actually moved the plate tectonics. The Chilean earthquake moved South America by 3 feet. It also caused our wobble on the earth to change, which is causing part of our climate change. And people say, oh, it's all mankind. No, it's not. It's our heliotrope is different. Our sun transmission is different. Our wobble is different. Look this up. It's all there. In 2009, I started working in Alaska with with teaching vibrational medicine and working with herbal medicine with the Inuits. And I've been working with them. My last trip to Alaska was in 2018, and working in St. Lawrence Island. St. Lawrence Island is 200 miles out in the Bering Sea. It's part of the original land bridge. There's 2 villages, Savunga and Gamble. And I cannot tell you what it's like to have a 103-year-old woman come up to you and say, I don't know what I'm going to do when I die. Can you help me? And I looked at her and said, I don't know what you're talking about. Tell me. And she walks me over to the water's edge, and she says, do you see right there, see those stones right there? And you could see these big kind of stones just in about 2 feet of water. And she goes, those are my ancestors. That's my village. And when I die, that's where I'm supposed to be buried, but they won't bury me now because the water's there. Where are my ancestors going to find me? What do you say to that? What do you say to that? Is that, and then that was for me a message for the world to understand that these Inuits know for survival. And there was a thing put out a few years ago that the horizon, that the sun is coming up at a different time. And they had a meeting of, believe it or not, they had a conference in Greenland with a lot of people from the Arctic Circle that came together to talk about this great time of change. And the USGS, I love their answer to it. Well, no. It's just that it's not that the world is changing. It's just that their ice melted, and now the sun is coming up because your horizon is different. What a crock of shite. They know to the day, to the hour, because they're in 6 months of darkness, and their ancestors have to do it by survival. And if they see that sun and it's coming up a day later, that could mean a difference between life and death on how they prepare for their winter. And so talking to the elders in Gamble, I spent some time in Savuga and Gamble, and understanding that their way of life has completely changed. They have a barge that comes in and sells them Cokes and Oreos and Lysol, and they lock the Lysol up because people drink it. And on an average, the person drinks about a half a gallon of moonshine a day. And we started a sobriety program there. And we also work with some of the elders supporting some funding going to gamble. And, I'm flying in on an airplane with a man that looks like he's in his 90s, flying the airplane with his knee, taking pictures out of the front window of Siberia, Russia, because it's only 19 nautical miles from Siberia, Russia. And you can smell pizza. And it's like, what? And it's like there's six seats for passengers, and the rest of it, there's 2 pallets with nets over the back, and you're flying in this little prop plane, and you land, and there's all these people on ATVs. And it's like, what is that pizza smell? And the pizza smell was that they ordered pizza from Nome, Alaska, that gets loaded on the plane, and all the people on ATVs, and that's the only transportation in this village is an ATV, because if you walk in the gravel, you sink up to your knees, and there's no cars or trucks or everything. Everybody they either walk or they're on ATVs or they're on snow sleds during the winter. So we went there and everybody got their pizza. I mean, this is like the most surreal thing I've ever seen in my life. And everybody is pizza. And I went there to work a clinic on vibrational medicine, and nobody would talk to me. So I started writing personal checks to buy. I didn't bring any cash with me. So I think I wrote about $3,000 worth of personal checks to buy their stuff so they would work with me. So the more they worked with me, and then I had the store, because everybody was going to the local store trying to cash the check. And the store owner called me and said, "Is this good?" And I said, "Yeah." And I prayed to God I could sell these things when I got home, because that's part of my savings. And that's how I was able to get these people to talk to me. But after talking with them, they gave me a piece of the world, that understanding of what they're living with up there. And an entire family, they have walrus lined boats, and that boat capsized with an entire family in it, 8 children. And it left the grandparents and the parents alone. And now they're trying to survive. I got to eat it. I got to eat, as an honor, fermented baby walrus foot. That was interesting. But you've got to, when you're in somebody's land, you need to do what to do to honor them. And that was part of their honoring to me, was the special food. So I ate their special food. But to understand that they used to get 8 whales a year, and now they're only getting 2. And they wait for the barges to come in of Oreos and Cokes, and drinking a half a gallon of moonshine a day. There's 1,200 people in this village. So we've done a lot of work in the last several years to work with these elders and to work with the medicines that we make, and actually helping to repatriate some harvesting methods, and had an opportunity to teach some of the women how to work with Gamble. The village name is Gamble and Savunga, and working with repatriating some of the harvesting things and all of that. But it's a tough life out there. It's really tough. Although I was on a plane coming back from there, and I got a young woman of the village who was part of their administration, and she was kind of crying, and I asked her if she's okay, and she goes, "Yeah, I'm going to Alaska to trade my family's goods to the tourists in the tourist shops." And she goes, "I'm going to be gone for a week, and I'm going to miss home so much." And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, that's such a different way of looking at things, because I was like, oh gosh, I'm going back to civilization. And there was kind of for me, yet she was leaving her civilization to come into the more westernized civilization, and she was missing her way of life. And so to understand the prophecies is that we are in a time of just really deep change. Today, we've had a lot of 728 earthquakes in California today. They have been mostly in the Mammoth area, and Mammoth has been under a volcanic watch since 1985. And the White Mountains there and the backside of the Sierras and the Mammoth Lakes are actually, they move up and down because of the lava plume that's underneath it, and the Valley Caldera, the Long Valley Caldera, which runs into Mono Lake. I usually take my class back there once a year. We do a trip, and we're going to be doing another one in June, hopefully, if all of this turns out for solstice. And I'll talk a little bit about that before the end of the class. But understanding that the Eastern Sierras, the Inyo craters, are very much part of active volcanoes here in California. It's the last active, I believe it was in 1917, the last part of the Cascadian faults, and part of the Cascadian was not Mount Shasta, Mount Lassen. And Mount Lassen, if you go up to the top, it actually breathes the sulfur dark heat on you. You can smell the exchange. It's sulfurous, but it's not bad. But it's got steam vents, and you can actually have an exchange of breath. In Hawaii, it's way that you exchange breath or the ha to take in the medicine of something. Excuse me. So I went and shared my breath with Mount Lassen a few years ago to help me understand. Also, we had Mount St. Helens in the 80s that went off. The Cascadian Fault, we ended up doing a land grid for in 2015, because there's a volcano off the shore where the northern plate meets where the Pacific plate meets the North American plate. You'll also see when earthquakes happen in California, they go around the rim of fire. And this has happened again and again and again. So then you're going to hear it in Mexico. From Mexico, you're going to hear it out into some of the islands. And then from there, it's going to end up in Japan. From Japan, it's going to end up in Alaska, and it comes back around. So we are all connected to that ring of fire. They have also found that when there were lava going off on the Big Island, probably because of the fracking is what caused. I'm not saying it was, but it could have caused a lot of that fracking that was going on the Big Island. Who would be stupid enough to frack on an active volcano? It's crazy, but that's what caused, I think, some of the fissures and activity we had a couple of years on the Big Island, that they found tubes that were connected into the super volcano into Yellowstone. Again, all things are put together for a reason. And these are the times and the signs that we need to watch for. And as we enter, that was one of my teachings. And please go back and listen to some of the stuff on Ouroboros from the prophecies. So revisiting, we've been going through these gates. These gates are now opening into a deeper part of the prophecies. And in the deeper part of the prophecies, we went through the 2020 gate, and immediately January 3rd, we could have had World War III. Easily could have had World War III with what was going on with Iran and the killing of the Army's leader. And we were having some really hard things going on. And so it's really important to understand we went through that 2020 gate, and we are on it. We are in it. And we're going to have earth changes more rapidly. we're going to see those earth changes happening a little bit more rapidly. We're going to have different signs that are showing. Part of we did some oracle channeling that we do every year at solstice, the Oracle Clan. I've been involved with them the last 7 years, and at solstice we always do a channeling, and we have someone be the oracle. This year we had 4 people do the oracle, and we were between the Sphinx paws on Christmas morning watching the sun come up, and there were 4 of us that did those channelings, and hopefully those will be made available on the Ouroboros, on the Academy of Oracle Arts. I'm not sure, that will be up to each person, but it's okay with me if mine is given, so that people can have that channeling and that understanding. And part of that was the understanding that our planet is going to go through different types of physical changes, because it's got to change, it's got to survive. And our planet has been dying now for quite a long time. And right now she is having a breath because the ants on her are told to stay quiet. And we are in a time of that we need to be quiet within ourselves and within, let her breathe a little bit. We're coming into spring. It's the time of the east on the medicine wheel. It's the time of renewed energy. And it's that time, though, that we don't winter. We don't know how to winter. But this is the time that this is spring and winter. And there's some really interesting, there's a Eskimo prophet that wrote a prophecy called 2 Winters. And really understanding, that's a really interesting also. So like I said, every indigenous tribe has a type of prophecy. The Kogis and the Hopis are known most for holding the earth in balance. And once their prophecies are fulfilled, then the earth goes out of balance, and our earth is going out of balance. Our earth is going out of balance, but it's going into balance for itself. And what that means for mankind, it just means, I was just having with Rhett, I was having a conversation with him before we started, and he was talking about being caught in certain ways. And, like, what are we caught in, and how do we work with society? At least our food chains have been working. Our toilet paper hasn't, but our food chains, at least here in Northern California, we have things that are missing, like we don't have Clorox, we don't have sanitizer, we don't have alcohol, we don't have those things that are comfort to us. But do we have alternatives? Yes, we have essential oils. Essential oils can make antibacterial. Do we have plant things that can help us with our health? Absolutely. Mamake on the Big Island of Hawaii make that into a tincture, and they use that for an antibacterial and an antiviral. Do we have things to keep our systems up? Absolutely. We have Stargate Pyramids are doing an amazing work with some amazing people on frequencies with Shari Williams. I just had a discussion with Richard Hoagland this couple days ago about some new things found out at Elmhurst Hospital and changing some of the frequencies, because I was treating it more like a virus and not more like an anti-inflammatory for the lungs. So going in, and I'm working with frequencies. We're working with remote healers across the US to put a focus on New York City to help with those light codes, and also in different hotspots where people are not well. And if you want to know anything more about that, please go to my website or go to my contact information's there. I've spoken to a lot of people this week about that and did some healing sessions with people. And also go on stargatepyramids.com. They've got some of that. Lori Sasson has been doing a lot of that remote work, and really important. So what we need to do, what do we do? What do we do? We are ants on a skin, truly, we are. Our planet is our tectonics, and we are on this beautiful being that needs to heal herself. And we as ourselves in mankind need to heal ourselves. That's what our ancestors has been saying. Watch for the signs and know that they are coming. And we're in it, guys. We're absolutely in it. And we have gone through these different gates in the last 50 years, and this is the gate. And we have another one at 2025. We have another one at 2032, and it goes all the way up to 2040, and then on into 2060, and then it kind of ends at 2060. Hopefully we'll have some peace. Will it always be this way? No. We will have my beautiful teacher in massage, Judy Phillips. And one of the things that she would always say, that the spaces between the touch are just as important as the touch. So we are in that place of the space between the touch. We're not allowed to touch each other now, but we will be here in the future. And then there's going to be another time where we're not going to be touching. And then there will be a time that we'll touch. It's going to come and it's going to go in waves. And the more we prepare ourselves, and I'm not telling you to go buy a missile bunker and create a survival hole. I'm not telling you that, but these weird ads on FEMA started showing up a couple of years ago. I don't know if you guys remember that, but there was these weird ads put on by FEMA that would show like a family, they were cartoon characters sitting down having dinner, and then the room would start shaking and they would go grab an emergency kit out of the closet and run out the door. And I'm thinking, like, what the heck? Why are we doing, what is this? And then all of a sudden, we have our little Hills Flat here, or BNC, and all of a sudden here are these like 5-gallon buckets for $99 of dehydrated food. And those started selling a year ago last summer, or 2 years ago last summer in 2018. And I'm like, what is this? And then we did a project in downtown Nevada City, and Lorraine Webb, wonderful woman, she started this project with a bunch of other people about freeze drying food. Halo was part of it as well. And I worked for Halo with Shay for several years as one of the herbalists in town, and also teaching my classes. And we did a whole freeze drying thing, a freeze drying food, and we had 2 months of food in our garage to be able to share with the community. And that went around in 2018. So something was in cosmic consciousness, at least in our town at that time, that was happening. And so that's what I'm saying, is that you need to have a stash of food that will last you a couple of weeks. And if it, maybe they'll sell the buckets, or maybe they still do, the buckets of freeze-dried food. I know it's not organic. I know it's not whatever. It's food, guys, and you have to be willing to eat dog food sometimes, and we can take care of ourselves, but we're coming into a place where we're going to have shortages because of this. We're going to have shortages, guys. Your favorite peanut butter brand may not be on the shelf. You may not be able to get organic something or other, but you can get something. So I'm just saying, we're going to have these times that we're going to have to understand that, right now we don't have toilet paper. And I've had a lot of people complain to me about they don't have toilet paper. Well, recently I went out into the forest and I harvest lichen, and the lichen is almost dry. And in that way, I can put the lichen in baggies, and I'm going to have that available for SunClan in case they have a problem that they can't get toilet paper. You can always find something else. Yeah, does it feel good to wipe your but with lichen? Not exactly, but if that was good enough for my great-great-grandmother that grew up in this area, and if that's what the natives used to have to do here, then am I so arrogant? No, I'm not, you know? And I just foraged. I had a really good salad the other night, last night actually, and I went and harvested miner's lettuce out on the land that we had, and I went and harvested a bunch of stuff off the land and had a wild salad. It's great. I'm gonna go harvest some. We just finished our bloom with our manzanita, but if you go up a little higher, there's still manzanita blooming, and I know we're on lockdown, but I need to go out in the wilderness and I'm gonna go get my manzanita, making sure nobody's around, and do a harvest of manzanita. Then I've got my sugar, and then I also have my manzanita mega sugar. Yeah, somebody just said manzanita sugar is the best. So luckily, I learned how to harvest off the land. I know how to make medicines, and right now we're going to work with the Oracle Arts to make an apothecary of medicines, and also Ancient Earth Apothecary, which is my business. We are making, we have an apothecary that I've been making for the last few years, and we've got medicines available if you need it. But that's one thing that's important. It's important to know what is around you, where your food is coming from, where you are coming from in your heart, and know this is something from the Hopis. Know where your water comes from, know where your food comes from, and know where your spiritual anchoring is. Those are some of the three most important things. Some people are all concerned about what happens if the Wi-Fi goes out for a few days, and Mr. Wilcock likes to talk about that. But that understanding is, if it goes out, well, then I can't talk to you guys, but big effing deal. You have 3 days or 4 days or whatever. Let the earth take what it needs to be quiet for now. And certainly I don't want to see things go down that in technology that we depend on so much, like ventilators and hospital electricity and all that. That is not something I'm asking for. But if I personally, lose Wi-Fi in my home for a few days, big deal. Maybe you have to sit with yourself quietly. And that's one thing I know that people don't know how to do. And this is what we're being called to do, is that, somebody put, I like Naomi, she said, read books. Yeah, we do have such thing as books. Thank God, and we cannot let our technology overcome our humanity. And technology is a wonderful thing, don't get me wrong, but it's also could be a death thing. 5G, well, that's a whole nother subject. But as we go through these gates, we're going through these time gates, and there's time to get your shit together. So excuse my language, but that's what I'm saying. It's time to get your stuff together. And it means, like, if right now finances, if it's squeezing you, then talk to the people that are squeezing you. That's all there is that you can do. Talk to them. Don't be afraid to pick up your phone and say, I can't do my payment this month. I can't, that's it. You can't do it. Then talk to them. They're human beings. And we're mapping a new way. We don't know what tomorrow's going to look like. They're saying to reopen society, and then people are saying this is a hoax. Whatever the hell you want to believe, that's up to you. But I know that I'm watching the prophecy. We have just had 4 major gates, and we are in a time, I had never expected 2020 to look like this from the beginning. But I do trips to Hopi every single year, usually twice a year. And I bring people to Hopi, and we sit with the elders, and we sit in the migration canyons, and we sit in front of Prophecy Rock, and we have a conversation with the elders, and there on the stones are exactly, especially Prophecy Rock and you can see it online. Grandfather Martin, he passed away about 4 years ago. Grandfather Martin was the oldest Hopi, and he was from Hope Villa, and he put it all out there. The Hopis are way more insular right now, and I don't blame them. They're in there for survival. They were telling me they had people driving up and laying on the road, on the tarmac in front of the cultural center saying, "Save me, save yourself." You know, these ones are still doing the medicine. They go into their kivas, and these people work. I mean, these people work a day job, and in their day job, then they go to the kivas, and the women feed the men. The men are in the kivas until midnight, 1 o'clock. They get up, they go to work at 5 a.m., 6 a.m., and then they do that again. They start that in October, and they go all the way, well, actually the end of October, because the women are in the kivas in October. They go in and they're praying for mankind. They're praying for mankind. Right now, they're starting their kachina. They'll start the kachina dances in June. Kachinas are the spirits that were born on San Francisco peaks, and they come in and they do their dances. I don't know if they're going to have the ceremonies open. A lot of them are closed, but they dance and they pray for mankind, and they are continuing to do that. They also have the frequencies that they're giving to the world, and that is so important. And these teachings are find your medicine and do it. Whatever your gift is, whatever your slice of the pie is, you know who you are. You're watching this for a reason, and watch the signs and the signals around you. Keep your vibration up. You have to take in your sun transmission. Like, we have cloudies today. I haven't been outside yet today, but we have sort of patchy clouds coming by. Yesterday, I had the beautiful sun. Today, we still have sun. And it's important to get out there, get your sun transmission. That means you're close by people. Put on a mask, put on gloves if you're touching things. Go out and greet the sun. Get that into your auric field. Those light seeds are really important. Start listening to frequencies. If you have a drum and sing. Hear your own voice. If you have a rattle, or if you have something, make sound. Move that energy around you. Move around your field. If you have time to take a class during this shutdown time, then take a class. Learn a new skill. Add something to your basket, you know? So it's really, really important to understand that what is going to happen in the future depends on you. It depends on each person on this planet and what your medicine is. And if you've got poison, then you need to turn it to medicine. Whatever your addiction is, whatever your lies are, whatever your thing in the closet that you don't want everybody to see. And one of the Hawaiian prophecies is that what is above shall come below, what is below shall be above. And if you go into Revelation, it talks about the wars in the heavens, and the wars in the heavens will come into earth. And that's why what is above shall be below, what is below shall be above. And that's why, if you listen to my teachings from last week, I taught a methodology of working in the unseen. Our elements are not working the same anymore, and we have to go into the nexus points, working in the unseen, and then opening the unseen from the unseen, put it into that place of origin on the seen plane, close it. We have a lot of people crossing over right now. Over 100,000 people have crossed over. And people go, oh yeah, they're just part of the statistics. Bull, they are not part of the statistics. They are life force energy that are leaving this planet. And those life force energies are going into the unseen. Those people and they leave a lot of people grieving. Each person of those statistics is a family and a circle that are not here right now. And that means the unseen, those veils between the earth are thinned, and it means, gives us the time that we can send light to those souls and to the families that are hurting. And that's imperative. If you're light workers or want to do that work, is that you send that out to those people that are hurting, and that you do prayers and light a candle and do prayers for those that are making their journey. I went to the medicine wheel yesterday and put down tobacco and put down sage and did my prayers for the unborn, because the unborn are the ones that are going to carry us into the future. They're the ones that are carrying the indigo or the crystal generation, and the ones that want to rise up. That's great, but pray for your children. And I'm praying for my children. My children, one is locked up in New York City in his apartment. My oldest one is in Knoxville, Tennessee, in charge of 500 medical clinics for the IT. And my little girl is riding around in an ambulance. My little girl is riding around in an ambulance as a paramedic. It's really, I'm just giving you guys imperative to please, whatever your part is, find your medicine. And if you have a poison, turn it to medicine. And if you don't know how to do that, you can contact me, and we can get this done together. These signs, but look for your signs. If you see that hawk flying, then you're looking for the larger vision. If you see that vulture by the side of the road, that vulture is in that part of resurrection where they take death and they do it. They give themselves to the sun. Vultures in the morning, they eat so much bacteria that you'll find that they spread their wings, and they have their wings out because that's how they get the sun. The sun takes away the carnage that they ate, and they're redoing themselves. I'm asking you guys to take your carnage, give it to the sun, and allow it to turn over. That sun, that fire, whatever you have, that sun is imperative as our star, but it's also your spiritual life. You can't do this work without being connected to something greater than yourself. And whatever that tends to be, I don't know, but that's up to you. I'm not here to preach dogma or doctrine or anything like that. You know where your heart is. You know how you want to walk. You want to know where your vibration. If you're tuned into this for some reason, then you know how you want to walk in the world. And that's what I'm asking you to do. We've got another gate in 2025. This will calm down, and it will resurge, and it will calm down, and it will resurge. We've got some things on the horizon with 5G that can be causing part of this, but we need to change our vibration. We need to change our vibration. And we've got some ways to help you do this. And don't believe that I'm teaching all of this to hype up on a class. I'm not. I am not here to, I am not here to try to get your dollars. I'm not here. I am here because Creator put me here in my medicine with all the people that have come into my life on my 64th year, going into my 65th year. Creator gave me a job to do in right livelihood, and this is it. So what I'm trying to say is I'm going to take questions in just a minute. I am going to tell you to be cognitive of somebody told me the other day that they had an ant on them, and then the ant had turned into this butterfly, and the butterfly was their totem. And I'm like, did you ever think that the lowly ant was maybe your totem? The ant is a very strong, it's the ant people that took the Anastasies below, whatever that means, but they were the ones. They are the ants that sit with you. So please understand that those ants are the ones that hold a whole different world of power. And so it may not seem glamorous to have an ant as an ally, but they are powerful allies. And they don't have to always be things of beauty. They can be things like a vulture that's sunning themselves. In Inca, the condor is an eagle. So what we think, take a look at the good, bad, and ugly around you, because in the good, bad, and ugly, and in the struggle is the way to turn your poison to medicine. That's all I need to say. And we'll have, I'm going to talk more about poison to medicine in my next class next Saturday. And we'll get into this a little bit further. I will be teaching again on the 18th at 3 o'clock. So look for that. The Academy of Oracle Arts, we have Isis's teachings, and I'm working with Isis in her program. And we are creating an ordination program for people that feel like they need to go out into the world and actually have people papers with an ordination through Church of the Essence. The Church of the Essence is a 40-year-old nonprofit that was very much involved. In fact, Judy Phillips was one of the ones that started it. Faith Havard is another one. Morning Star is another one. And it ended up in my lap 2 years ago. And also, they started the psychic fair here in Nevada City. And I've been in charge of the psychic fair now. And now Naomi is my assistant. Michelle Nocerino, who has the Crystal Skull Shannara, was my assistant for several years. And Shelley Green was my assistant before that. I've been doing that psychic fair. I think this is like my 16th year, 17th year, something like that. It's a benefit for the Miners Foundry. We're looking at putting that together and hopefully having that at the end of July. And we had to postpone it because it would have been actually today. And so that's holding the space for my ancestors that I was part of. So I want you all to realize that we have to, okay, I'm being told to drink water. One of my dear sisters, Sun Clan, can hear my voice getting raspy. And thank you, Michelle. Appreciate that. And so then Psychic Fair was not canceled. It was moved to July. So hopefully we can have it in July. Also, Origins Gathering, I'm going to be teaching there. That's the first weekend in July. And then I also will be teaching Psychic Fair. Also, another woman who's doing incredible work. Her name is Star Singer. She has quantum frequencies, technologies, amazing work for this time, amazing. So she's a good friend of mine. She's local. She's doing great work. And Isis and Sonia, amazing work. Thank you. We've got these platforms coming out, and I'm going to be teaching my Earth Alchemy through the Academy of Oracle Arts. We're doing an online class, and we're doing a physical class. And those will be starting in June. And we'll be doing the online class, and we've got the outline coming out for that. But it's about making medicines. It's about working with light codes. It's about working, we're going to be making a vapor spagyrics in an alchemical form of medicine. We'll be working with Ormus and teaching about making Ormus and working with the alchemical process, which is something I normally teach in a 3-year class, but we're doing it in 6 months because it's needed medicine out there. And so, again, it will be online and it will also be in person. Those that take it in person, of course, will have a little bit more opportunity to do a lot of hands-on, but we will be filming. I've got a lab. Those will be filmed in the lab for some of the stuff that we're doing. Some of it will be outdoors and things like that. So we're working on that platform right now. I just put the ministerial class together, or the ordination class together, which is part of the Oracle Arts platform. And so, yes, Becca. And so we're going to be doing all of that. And that's a class that is in accordance with Church of the Essence. Church of the Essence will be able to offer some ordination through that in accordance with the Academy of Oracle Arts. And that's being platformed right now and put together. So those are those things that are coming. I'm going to be quiet right now because we have, well, I'm going to go over a little bit because I know there was some questions. Sonia, can you just shake your head if it's okay to go over a little bit? Okay. So if you need to drop out from here, that's fine. I won't take it personally, but if you can stay on for a few minutes more, I'm going to take questions, but you need to unmic yourself and just ask it to me, because I see these comments go by, but I can't see them. Right. So just unplug and talk.
Marza, this is Andre.
Yeah. Hi, Andre.
I had a question. I know with these prophecies and these types of things, it's not an exact, on this date and on this date. But,
correct.
Do you have any feeling as to how this is going to unfold, how long this is going to be, what we can expect this year?
Well, basically, we're going to be released from this probably come summer. It's not going to be, I don't think we're going back to work May 1st. I mean, they may order that, but truly we're in it until probably the first part to the middle part of June. And then again, looking at forecasts and looking at things, we're going to have another wave come through. But what we're going to be battling most is going to be the 5G, and where we're going to have to work with our frequencies. And so we really, really have to, got it, Carol Ann, that we really have to work with our frequencies and what our frequencies are doing and how we're relating. Because like I said, this isn't all dark and dank. We've got some beautiful things that are arising. The energy underneath all that chaos is arising, and pretty soon that will be transferred to the bigger populace. But right now we have to stay under it, doing our work under it and through it to help it dissipate. So the more people that get on the bandwagon as far as working with their frequencies, their light codes, turning their poison into medicine, turning those light codes in, the more that will help negate some of the 5G that's coming on board that's already here. And so there's a whole bunch of things that we need to do to be able to continue to do that. And like I said, we've got classes going on, teaching how to do that. I'm going to be also doing a trip out, hopefully for summer solstice, we don't know, to ancient bristlecone. And we're inviting people to come out there to do our summer solstice and to be able to do our training with working with the oldest living thing in the world, which are the ancient bristlecone trees, and their antennas growing in dolomite, which is a manganese that lets off an electric bioelectric field that actually feeds your field when you're sitting next to these older trees. And it's also the dolomite that was over the pyramid that caused the bioelectric charge. So long story, people that want to go will have things up on the website about that. And so what I'm telling you guys is be prepared for weird things to happen. And what I mean is, like, we are in unnavigable waters. As a large world, we haven't been that. So if you can put some money aside, if that's possible, put some of your dried food aside, put water aside, plant your seeds now, get food in the ground and prepare canning and do the things for preservation of food. If you can, if you have someone who's ill or not well, make sure you're checking on them, and make sure that you're doing your prayers and that you're doing that seated work that needs to be seated right now. And seated, as I mean, in that spiritual work in yourself. The lighter you become, the 42 the 42 tenets of Mott, perfect thing to follow right now, because that will help you turn your poison to medicine. If you're having addiction problems, then go out and find those teachers and healers that can help you with those problems. If you've got rage, if you've got anger, if you've got depression, then seek out those people that are willing to help you do the work, because it's only up to you to help heal yourself. It's only up to you. And so all of this work, we need to work on ourselves, our poison to medicine, and we're going to hit some financial bumps. Obviously, we're hitting another where we've got energy bumps. We're going to have problems with our electricity. We probably are going to have problems with Wi-Fi in certain spots on the world. We're going to have some problems with life is never going to go back to how it was in 2019. Just know that, guys. If you're expecting this to lift and we're going to be normal, it's not. We have to find our new way, and our new way is uniting in platforms of our communities and living in a more community. We spend so much time bitching about the government. Well, do what you can in your little community, and don't bash other people that are different than you. That is something, if you see something on social media, shut up, leave your anger not in the virtual world, leave it in your own mouth, and then dissipate it. Truly, we have to accept other people and their views. You're responsible for you, and you're responsible for your part. And so those are the waves that you're going to see. And we're going to have to learn to ride the surfboard. I grew up on a surfboard in Huntington Beach, and I'm going to get back on my board and I'm going to ride it, because that's exactly what we're going to be doing. And you're going to have to learn to live with less, and you're going to have to learn to not expect or be entitled of. And entitlement is a big problem that we have in this world right now. And so be grateful for what you have, and know that if you have too much, that you need to give half of it away to somebody who has less. That is how we're going to get through this. Did that answer your question, Andre?
Yeah, that and more. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go on for another 10 minutes, and then I'm going to cut it here, unless we're done with questions. Any other questions?
Marza?
Yes.
So you were mentioning putting money aside and putting food aside, things like that, preparing. Is this for coronavirus related things for 2020, or is this for something else? Or
this is for how life is going to be, that we don't know when we're told to shut down. Coronavirus is just one more pandemic with the world this size, with some of the underlying politics that are going on and the world flux that we're in. For you to be responsible for yourself, you need to have those things. And also, I encourage people to use, if you have cash, maybe look at buying gold or silver. Silver is easier to trade than gold. During the Depression, they outlawed gold. You couldn't own gold, believe it or not. So gold is harder to exchange. Silver is a less dominated field, but also have things to be able to trade. And that means if you have skills, you could trade skills. Look at how would you live without money? Think about it and see what you have in your little box of tools on what you can trade, what services you can give, and position yourself where you're not going to worry about how you're going to feed yourself next week if that paycheck doesn't come in, or if that subsistence check doesn't come in from the government. That's what I'm saying. And it's a new way of life, guys. That's all. Did that answer your question?
well, I'm trying to get a little bit more clear. So are you saying for the rest of like 2020, for a few years, for a decade? I mean, how long do you seeing this kind of, like you mentioned the date times of 2025?
2020 to 2025 is tumultuous. That's all I can say. There are going to be things thrown at us as a world that we have not seen thrown at us. In 2025, we've got another gate that we go through, and we go through these gates all the way to 2060. And 2060, so as we rise and as the chaos dissipates above us, and the more people that are willing to do their light work, and as that rises on the earth, that cloud that's over us will dissipate. But it's going to take time. And so I'm not one to equate. I'm a one that watches cycles. And I don't work on March 1st on 2021, this is going to happen. I look at the larger picture and the larger cycle. Only you can start training yourself to look at the signals and your own intuitive work, your own looking, did that bird land in front of me today? What does that mean? Birds are messengers. And what messengers are showing up for you? That's something to look at. How is the ground doing? My plants are dying. I'm not, even though I'm watering them, they're not working right. So what do you need to feed your ground? Look at biodynamics and look how it starts. We're going to go through this. Our earth is in major flux changes. So whatever we think we're going back to, we only can look forward to. And so it's time to be prepared so you don't become a burden to somebody else. And it's time for you to you know, we live in communities, we live in homes, we have interchange and commerce, but also in that we need to have a little bit put aside so that we can weather out some of these things that are happening. And yes, we're going to see it again. And it's going to change. But each time we go through this cycle, it's going to change to something else where we're going to have better things. Yes, we're not in dim and darkness. We're in a place of ascension. But with each ascension, that heavy, dense energy layer needs to be removed. Then we move up a rung. Next layer of energy removed. We move up a rung. That is part of the cyclical process that's in the Mahabharata, that's in the Bible, that's in the Quran, that's in so many legacies, in the Hopi prophecies, all of that. And then we talk about the 1,000 years of peace. And there will be 1,000 years of peace at some point in the future, but not now. We are entering into, in Egypt, they call it the cataract. And on the Nile, you enter the cataract. We call them here, we call them rapids. So yeah, we are now in the rapids. And we are going to have times that we're going to have smooth, and then we're going to be in the rapids again. And then we're going to be smooth, and we're going to be in the rapids again. So I can't give you a date and a time. 2020, I'm looking through the cycle of 2020 to 2025. And that means the ascension as this dense energy is removed. But it's good to have these things in your home to be able to know that we're going to hit another current. We're going to hit another current. We're going to hit another current. If you've ever been, you know, surfboard riding, or if you've ever been on a river raft, you always have those things in your raft. So that's what I'm asking you to have those things in your raft, because you don't know when you're going to hit another cataract or another rapid. Does that help answer your question?
Yeah, and could I just ask one more thing?
Yes.
Do you see it as worldwide, not just concentrated in the US?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. When I'm talking here, I'm talking globally. I'm not talking just the US. I'm talking about everywhere. Okay. Because everywhere right now is going through this, and some it hasn't hit yet, and other ones they've gone through it, and now it's getting better. It's like a wave. It goes around the earth. It's like the earthquakes. It goes around our west coast. It goes around. So, okay, I'm going to end with a prayer, and then I'm gonna, grandmothers, grandfathers, receive our heart. Creator, hear our prayer. Thank you, Creator, for all above and all below. We ask, Creator, as we go through this time, that you help us have steady feet, that you keep our heads in the cosmos, so we understand what's coming in, that we see what we're anchored to below, and we see what we are anchored in to the sky. We ask you, Creator, for those that have gone on, that you make their journey light, and those that are here left, that they hold the burden of grief and sadness, please lighten their heart and know that these ones that have passed on don't have to live through these times as we are. And we ask that you help those that are struggling and that are ill, that you help them find their feet, that they can come into wellness if that is their journey. If it is their journey to pass on, then please let them pass on quickly so they don't suffer. We thank you, Creator, for all above and below. Aho. I do want to say that, do you want to put up that thing, Sonia, as far as the Ouroboros? We do ask for donations for these classes and these teachings. And do you have that to put up, Sonia? I can't hear you. You're okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it up.
Okay, we're gonna put up how to contact me, and if you want to give away, that helps us keep going and all of that. But she's putting up our information. So this is our information on how to get a hold of me. And if you want to give away, that's where you give away. There you go. So there's all the information. If you want to email me, that's our website. This is everything about me and how to get a hold of me if you want to give away, whatever. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. Please join in next Saturday. I'm going to be teaching about the rite of Aini, the rite of power of the offerings, and how to equate energy in our liquid universe. Akishnana, hey ya hey, ahejita. Okay, I hope. Just wanted to give a blessing to y'all. Okay, we'll see you next week, I hope. And be well out there.
Yeah,
Thank you,
everyone.
Marza.
Thank you, Marza.
Thank you, Marza, so
Thank
much.
you, Sonia.
Everyone, if you do make a donation, if you don't mind just doing friends and family through PayPal, it would be awesome. Thank you so much.
If you don't have PayPal and you don't have Venmo, how can you make a donation?
What do you have?
I have checks and I have money, but I have paid with PayPal, but it's not like with a PayPal account. It's like only when a business sends me an invoice. But
What about Google Pay? Have you tried it?
Google Pay? Okay, I'll try that.
Yeah, you can send it to, I think it's, Sonia, is it ouroborosnc@gmail.com? And then
Okay.
note Marza.
Okay, yeah, I think it's sometimes an issue because I'm in Canada, so like I can't send, from a U.S. bank account, but.
Venmo is pretty safe too. Like I've used that plenty of times. I don't know if you can use that in Canada, but it's definitely reliable.
Okay, everybody, I appreciate it.